Welcome, everybody. Super excited to introduce you to another Navy researcher. He's doing some really cool things and way cooler than I'm doing because all I do is sit here and talk to people all day. So, really excited for you guys to meet this gentleman. Today, I've got Rob Sparrock. Rob, what's happening?
Hey, I'm doing great. Living the dream in Tampa, having done 34 years in the Navy and now get to manage research vessels. So great time to be supporting the Navy.
That's awesome, Rob. So, you said you're living the dream. Are you living your best life?
I am definitely living my best life. I spent 34 years in the Navy, half of it at sea, and now I'm semi-retired. I'm still working for the Navy, but I
Sure.
get to do it from home and I get to manage research vessels that go to sea without, at the same time doing 7-month deployments to, some of the best places you can visit on the earth.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's awesome. That's really glad to hear, especially someone that's been doing it as long as you have and you still love it.
Yeah, I envision doing this job for another 15, 20 years. I'm not sure what would make me stop doing it, to be perfectly honest.
That's great to hear. So let's talk about what that job is. So Rob, you're kind of in charge of and over the naval is it the floating or remote research facilities, kind of the air, the water, those kinds of things?
Yeah, basically, I'm sort of like a lab manager, except for this lab's float, and they
Okay.
go to sea and they look like ships. But
Okay.
fundamentally, they're oceanographic laboratories. The Navy owns 6 of these research vessels, and they're part of a larger fleet that's owned by the academic research fleet. So there are actually 18 ships that I have
Wow.
access to, in addition to managing the 6 that the Navy owns. And
Wow.
these floating laboratories basically support science around the globe. And they can do physical oceanography, biological oceanography, seabed research. We operate up in the Arctic, up in the tropics. We operate in the deepest parts of the ocean. I also have aircraft that are so specialized they actually fly super low, and they're designed to do air-sea boundary work. So
Wow.
these pilots are specially trained to fly this meteorological aircraft at very low altitudes. But basically, I'm here to provide the tools that researchers need to do the research for the future of the Navy and for the future of the country. So they're dual purpose. They both do research that is of Navy interest, and they also do research of interest to the United States at large.
That's incredible. You kind of mentioned deep sea. Does that mean you're responsible for the Alvin?
I am responsible for the Alvin. The Alvin's one of these jewels in the United States government. It is a submarine that carries 3 people, or a mini submersible.
Yeah.
And actually, right now, it's undergoing refit, and that refit is designed to make it capable of diving down to 6,500 meters. So, of all
Wow.
the things we have in the U.S. government, this is the thing that the United States owns that is capable of diving deeper than any other platform. Some other countries have other submarines that go deeper, but Alvin has done over 5,000 dives. It's a national treasure, has been around for a while. And for those who are interested in deep sea research, this is the cream of the crop that the United States government has.
That's incredible. That's fan. I know the most thing that I like about that is that other people are doing it and not me because that would freak me out.
Yeah, there was a recent story of one of the astronauts, and she went down in the Alvin. And it's one of the few people who have been both in outer space and this deep in the ocean.
Wow.
There actually have been more people in space than have been this deep in Alvin.
Wow. That's very interesting. Yeah, that's I never thought of that. So,
Yeah, we know more about space than we do the deep ocean.
well, that's what we got folks and teams like yours, right?
Exactly.
That's incredible. So, Rob, how did you get here? Were you like a 3-year-old, 10-year-old Rob? You're like, one day I'm going to manage all the research vessels for the Navy, or kind of how and why did you get where you are?
I'll take a step back. And so when I was 5, 6, 7, I thought I either wanted to be an astronaut or an oceanographer. And I had convinced myself I wanted to be an oceanographer after watching Jacques Cousteau, back in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
And I grew up in New York City, and I went to a So New York has a number of magnet schools, and I went to a magnet high school for oceanography. So
Wow.
where other kids go to FAME because they want to do arts and theater, I went to a specialized high school for oceanography because I
Wow.
knew even in high school I wanted to be an oceanographer. And then when I applied to colleges, I only applied to colleges that had oceanography majors. And the United States Naval Academy was one of those schools that had an oceanography program. So to be honest, my goal wasn't I'm going to go be a naval officer. My goal was, oh, they have an oceanography program because I want to be an oceanographer, and the school is at a good price and the uniforms look cool, and I just had, I don't know what my expectations were. I didn't think of Navy as a career at that point. I was
Okay.
really limiting my college choices to programs that had oceanography.
Yeah.
And then when I graduated from the Naval Academy, I was one of 10 graduates who went on to graduate education straight from the Naval Academy. And I wound up getting a master's degree at the University of California, San Diego, which is Scripps Institution of Oceanography, probably the premier oceanography school in the country. And, the Navy provided those opportunities for me, and I took full advantage of them.
That's great. That's really great to hear that you kind of had this passion and you kind of found a way to work with and for the United States government and the Navy to not only do great things for the Navy and Marine Corps as you have over the years, but also get deeper education and a great program that you got to really follow your path. They weren't like, no, Rob, we're gonna make you be the world's premier go-go dancer. They're like, no, you love oceanography, we're gonna help you get there.
Yeah, yes and no. They helped me get there, and then it was time to do my Navy commitment. And as my
Sure.
Navy commitment, I went to nuclear power school and was a nuclear engineer. And once they figured out I was good at nuclear engineering and managing ships, they kept offering more and more opportunities. And next thing you know, I've done a 30-year career. I served on 7 ships. I had command of one. I visited over 70 countries, and I was hooked in the surface Navy and didn't know when I was ever going to make it back to be an oceanographer. And it wasn't until very late in my career that I came back to ONR. And I came back to ONR to be the deputy for the code that works on oceanographic research.
Wow.
And once I served there as the deputy of the oceanographic code, the code that focuses on oceanographic research, I learned about this position. And after I
Okay.
retired from the military, I came to this position because it was a perfect match. I mean, I
That,
deal with ships and I deal with oceanography, the two things that I love, and now I'm in my dream job.
that
And it
that's
stumbled
great.
on it by accident.
That's great, Rob. And as a reminder for those, ONR is Office of Naval Research.
Office of
Um,
Naval Research, yep.
so just want to make sure. And so, Rob, what's with back to kind of the research vessels that you kind of manage? What kinds of things are we doing right now as a Navy? Like, what research is going on out there on these vessels?
Well, the most important thing is acoustics. So
Okay.
if if you're thinking at it from the federal government, there are lots of people who do science, but only the Navy is primarily concerned with acoustics research. So that is our primary focus of where we
Wow.
spend effort, because for the Navy, that's our number one science initiative.
Huh.
But the research vessels are so capable. I mean, we've invested, I wish I could give you a number off the top of my head, maybe $1 billion in these research vessels, in
Wow.
this fleet of research vessels. But they have sonars, they have the ability to do all kinds of oceanographic research, no matter what the discipline. So we're involved in anything and everything that's involved in the ocean. We have scientists who are trying to study the vents, the deep sea vents, and are trying to find ways to harness energy from the deep sea vents.
Very
We have
cool.
scientists who are deploying undersea vehicles that are autonomous in order to sample the ocean. We have scientists who have cabled arrays that sit on the seafloor and constantly monitor parameters.
So
We have people who do food chain. I mean, it's incredible.
how do your vessels come into play then? So you're kind of responsible for deploying their labs so they can do this research, correct?
Yeah, I'm primarily responsible for making sure the lab is available to the people who need it.
Okay.
So, to be honest, I spend a lot of effort on this part that's not as glamorous, right? In order to take these ships to sea, the engines have to work, they
Yep.
have to have fuel, they have to have
Yep.
equipment that's working safely. So I am
Yes.
primarily concerned with providing a safe and stable platform that meets the needs of any scientist and is multidisciplinary and able to do anything. Now, the Navy, my other peers are the ones who are picking the research. So we have guys who are doing research in the Arctic, where they're putting in probes that'll actually be embedded in the ice and drift with the ice in order to take meteorological and oceanographic readings. We have
Yes.
people who are working on better predictions for hurricanes and typhoons. We have people who are working on better predictions for underwater acoustics and underwater cables
Very
and
cool.
underwater sea vehicles.
Yes,
So
that's
I'm the enabler. My job is to enable the scientist with the tools to do the right job.
that is important. I really like what you said about the Navy kind of does a lot with acoustics, because for me, knowing nothing about science at all, other than I turn the light on and it turns on, is the acoustics in the Navy. That means we're gonna have some underwater rock concerts soon, right?
Yeah, basically, submarines are limited in their ability to see through the water, and so
Oh,
they have to listen through the water. But in addition to just finding submarines and hunting submarines, acoustics plays a role in communications. So
okay.
um, all those things related to acoustics are primarily related to the safe operation of things that operate underwater, because you can't see as well as you can hear underwater.
Okay. So does that still mean that I can still plan on going to an underwater concert, or is that a little bit out of the Navy's realm?
Some of the sounds that we have are very loud. When I did
Okay.
my thesis work, I got to work with Dr. Walter Monk. And for those who ever Google Dr. Walter Monk, he is the nation's premier oceanographer, very historic figure. He was still
Excellent.
working when I was involved in ONR at 101. He was still a
Wow.
professor teaching at Scripps Institution of Oceanography, and I
Wow.
was privileged to have him as one of my thesis advisors. And he is known as the father of modern Navy oceanography.
That's
Uh,
fantastic.
Wonderful man, but we had a big sound source called it was off an island called Heard Island, which was kind of a pun. Heard Island is off the coast of Australia. And the work we did was to take this sound and pump it through the ocean so that we could measure how long it took the sound to get across the globe. And
Wow.
that sound traveling thousands of miles across the globe was able to sample the water and thus help us in determining global warming. Because it's one thing to know that there's global warming measured by a few places on land, but we're 3/4 of the globe is water. So if you can't measure global warming in the ocean, and the
Yeah.
best way to do that is your example of the rock concert. So we had a huge sound source off the coast of Australia, and we could listen to it off the coast of San Diego.
That's fantastic. That's really cool. So where do you think this is going? Like where is like and when I say this, I mean kind of the research vessels and kind of what and we have the Alvin that you said is kind of being retrofitted to go even deeper now and to do the things it does. What other kinds of research vessels or things are we looking towards, or what do you want or expect in 20 years?
I think in the next 20 years, some things we're going to be working on are refining our models and artificial intelligence. So right now, let's take hurricane prediction for example.
Okay.
We're we're able to forecast hurricanes with some level of accuracy, 48 hours, 96 hours in the future. And the reason we're not able to do it more accurately is this phenomena we're just not able to model or we don't know about. And I think this future scientists are going to be able to do more with computing power. I mean, one reason our forecasts are limited is because we're limited by our models and we're limited by our understanding of the phenomena. But even if we were not limited by our understanding of the phenomena, we'd be limited by how fast we can make the computer give us the output. So
Sure.
when computer speed increases and we understand more phenomena, we'll have more accurate forecasts. And you can imagine just how important more accurate forecasts are for, human beings around the world, but also, for the Navy. In acoustics, the same phenomena. We have to deal with temperature changes around the globe, seasonal changes. I mean, it's not like we can understand the acoustics of the entire ocean in one place, because the ocean is just greatly dynamic. And the more measurements we take, the more our understanding is going to increase. I think the future is also going to involve more unmanned systems. So it's the people who are going to be able to work on robotics and artificial intelligence and computing power to send these, underwater gliders or underwater devices. Our instrumentations are getting smaller. So our ability to sample the ocean with 18 ships is not the future. Our ability to sample the ocean with hundreds or thousands of gliders and other small instruments to get a better sampling of the ocean at a reasonable cost, I think, is where our future is going to be. So I'm not negative on the ships. You're still going to need the ships, and you're going to still need to take people to sea, because there's just something inspiring about going to sea and seeing things. Again, like I told you, understanding the deep ocean, there is so much about the deep ocean we don't know. There is lots of discovery still to go there. So, there are people who think, oh, what more do we have to learn about the ocean? There's a lot more we have to learn about the ocean.
So remember, folks, he's actually talking to you. He's not talking to me, because I will probably pee my pants if I go to the bottom of the ocean. But you all who are like, man, Rob, this oceanography sounds awesome. He wants you guys to be the future, invent those gliders, go deeper. So remember, this is all about where you think we're going. So Rob, what else do you think people should know about oceanography or the research vessels that we're kind of working on right now in the Navy Marine Corps?
Well, there's a research vessel. I'm going to go back in history here. It's called the FLIP, which stands for the Floating Instrument Platform.
Okay.
And if you've ever seen a video of it, it looks like a 355-foot buoy that's being towed, and then it flips 90 degrees. So the bottom 300 feet is pointing straight down, and the top 55 feet is sticking out of the water. It sticks out of the water like this. And because it's in that configuration, it is really stable. And a really stable platform allows us to do measurements that we have, that you couldn't do otherwise. The ship is very old, and at 60 years, it's going to cost a lot of money to upgrade. So we're at a decision of what are we going to do with this. But there's an interesting project that we're supporting with the French, and it's a new flip. And their goal is actually to deploy this to the Antarctic and have it float around the Antarctic and be able to take great measurements, and it'll be people in it. So there's going to be someone who, you can't go to Mars right now, but in a few years, you'll be able to sit in a floating pod that circumnavigates the Arctic Ocean or the Southern Ocean, and take all kinds of great instruments that you would otherwise not be able to do in an easy way. But I can imagine, how cool it was watching Jacques Cousteau, scuba dive and do his things and have underground platforms. And I'm sure there's somebody out there who would say, yeah, I would drift around Antarctica, taking in, measurements and instrumentation in a way that has never been done before.
Well, I think that's fantastic. I think two sides of it I hear is a great opportunity for a researcher or scientist to really get hands-on into some areas that we are not in right now, and also another great opportunity to catch up on your TikTok videos.
Absolutely.
You'll have so much time floating around.
Yeah, the globe is such a fascinating place. I mean, you can't, until you understand the whole ocean system and understand climate change. There are people who want to understand climate change, but you're not going to understand climate change until you understand how it impacts the ocean.
Definitely. Well, thanks, Rob. Is there anything else you want to share?
No, I'll share with one final thought. And I guess my advice would be leave your options open and think broad. There is, when I was in your position, I said, I want to be an oceanographer, and that's all I wanted to do. And while I have finally gotten there, the journey on how I got there was probably the thing that is most fun. and had a lot of planning and a lot of changes. And as I went around and was exposed to the Navy and all these countries and all these different things, my goals changed. And my goal was to really understand how the world worked and how I fit in it. And my goals changed, so people's goals change. And then I came back and here I am living the dream, like you said.
I think that's great. Whether you're in high school, college, that you're so young in that time frame of even when you were in the Naval Academy in that college time frame, you were kind of going one direction, and then you had to do some nuclear stuff for a while and do your Navy to pay back for the great education they gave you. But over time, you got right back to oceanography. So that passion never died. You were still able to pursue what you wanted to.
Yep, and I was fortunate enough to have the Navy pay for my bachelor's degree, 2 master's degrees, a year of nuclear power training, another degree in national strategy and policy. So they just left me wide open.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you, Rob. Really appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. And for the students who are my own kids' age, please apply. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.
Fantastic. Rob's the man. You all heard it there. Some fantastic opportunities in oceanography, some great things going on. The Navy has a vessel that can go like super deep into the ocean that I'm never going to go in, but you might go in one day. So tell us where you think we are and tell us where you think we're going. Rob talked about some gliders. Maybe one of you is going to invent the next thing that goes deeper than we've ever been. So hope you enjoyed learning from Rob and can't wait to hear what you guys think. Have a great day. See ya.